Last time we talked about Terran and Protoss scrapped units, and today we'll cover the ZERG race. Unlike the other two, there were not so many deleted units, and most of them were just redesigned, but I still managed to find at least a couple of really interesting ones. The first one is Scourge, and every ZERG player would love to have them in the army. This is pretty much an air baneling that could blow up all flying units. It has a cheap cost and it's very effective against large numbers of air forces, such as Protoss Void Race or let's say Terran Vikings, or even ZERG Metalisks. Scourge was ready to join the ladder in 2010 and you can meet it in Wings of Liberty campaign, and the whole concept just made sense because the race already has a ground kamikaze unit, that's Baneling. However, the developers probably didn't consider this unit for many reasons and it never got past the concept or alpha stage for multiplayer. The reason is simple. This single unit would just shut down any air units in the matter of seconds. It's much harder to split your capital ships, and there is no terrain in the sky, so it would really be a no-brainer for most ZERG players. You just A-move your Scourge stack and get things done. And once again, if you nerf them too hard, they won't be able to get to the enemy units and actually deal any kind of damage. But during the development of Legacy of the Void, Scourges were considered as a good addition once again, but due to microcontrol issues they were scrapped. Let's just hear from the developers themselves.
I'll give you another example from the StarCraft 2 development days when there was a point in the development cycle where we actually were thinking of adding Scourge to StarCraft 2. And we eventually did not do it because we realized that when you patrol units, they maintain their acceleration. So dodging Scourge would be much less of a factor, right? It'd be relatively easy because you just constantly patrol your units and you would allow them to maintain full acceleration so that dodging Scourge would never be a problem.
Swamp Guardian was a Brood War unit that never made it past alpha version of Wings of Liberty. This unit was a long-range siege artillery. It had nice damage and could support your army in different situations. The cool feature about Swamp Guardian was that it evolved from Mutalisks. The first version had a basic attack, and later Swamp Guardian would attack with swarms instead. These were pretty much the same broodlings that just did damage on the hit and soaked up the incoming damage. While Swamp Guardian was a cool concept and it looked really nice, Broodlords seemed a lot more interesting and creative. Hence, Swamp Guardian ceased to exist and was replaced by a more stylish version that is now present in the game. Look at this dude. Now pause this video and try to guess what it was. So, it's the early concept of Infestor, the most powerful ZERG caster. Back in the pre-alpha stage, this unit had 3 abilities and it was completely different from what Infestor is today. This version could create a protective cloud that would reduce damage, similar to what Infestor has nowadays with microbial shrouds. So-called disease ability would just deal damage over time, but the best ability was Infestation. It targets Terran and Protoss buildings, temporarily infesting them and spawning infested marines over time. It looked really great. But there were certain problems with this unit. Infestor was quite slow and his abilities, except for disease, were hardly ever used. A protective cloud called Dark Swarm didn't really work that great because other races had a lot of good AoE damage as siege tanks or storms. And as for Infestation, it was just very difficult to get past Terran or Protoss defense without being detected, especially on a high level. So while it was very cool on paper, the unit was still deleted and redesigned from scratch. And sadly, that's it for the ZERG race. Next time we'll talk about major redesigns and changes in what we already have, from Queens to Force, and basically every unit was redesigned multiple times in the StarCraft 2 history. Make sure to check out Terran and Protoss deleted units, and of course, have a nice day, and see you next time.